Gifted and talented. When we see those words, we automatically think smart kid and leave it at that. Gifted and talented students are often the kids that we love to see on our rosters because we think, yes, these students will be less of a stress for me and will make the rest of the class flow smoother. But in reality, this is the attitude that we have to be most careful of. Gifted students are a privilege to have because they require something different out of us as teachers, and they keep us on our toes. Instead of believing them to be students that we don't have to worry about, we need to view them similar to SPED students in the sense that we have to be cautious to make sure that we are meeting their needs and are challenged at the right level. Their social and emotional needs need to be monitored so that they do not feel alienated or slip into a phase of underachievement as a result of boredom. All of this requires teachers to know the identifiers and meet their needs the best we can in the classroom. Gifted education has slipped to the wayside in light of the focus on special education students and test scores connected to school performance. However, Jeff Danielian said it best whenever he stated, "The 21st century can be an era where educational possibilities are limitless, and the future for gifted and talented children will once again be a national priority. Become an active part of this future. By being educated about the identifiers and behaviors of gifted kids, you can better serve their needs in the classroom." The first step to becoming more aware of how to meet the needs of gifted students is to know the difference between a myth and a truth when it comes to educating them. The first myth that is often believed is that gifted students have to stay with their same grade level peers. This is false. There is a difference between age peer and intellectual peer. Gifted students need to be with their intellectual peers so that they are challenged at the right level and can be socialized with others who share their interests. If gifted students are not placed with their intellectual peers, they can slip into a pattern of underachievement out of boredom, which will be discussed later. The second myth is that gifted students have to be perfectly well-rounded. If this were a reality, we would be forcing gifted students to excel in all areas where their brains are only hardwired to have a passion in a single area. Research proves that it is better to let the students explore their passions instead of forcing interest in all areas. Tracy Cross states that a more reasonable approach is to encourage and nurture other interests in the child rather than sending them the message that they are unacceptable as they are. When we let students explore their passion, we are making the best decision for their social and emotional health. The third myth about gifted education is that gifted abilities can't be developed. They are just something that you are born with. This is false. If a student shows potential, that potential can be nurtured and developed into a gifted ability. This stage is usually elementary school around the 4th grade. While nurturing students with abilities, growth mindset is crucial. Growth mindset is a way of thinking that teaches the students that the significance in learning is not the grade, but the journey it takes to get to the goal. This includes the student realizing that it's okay to struggle, and if you fail, that it's just a first attempt in learning. When students can wrap their minds around this way of thinking, they can find more joy in the learning process and their ability can be nurtured to the highest degree. Carol Dweck is the pioneer of this idea and has numerous books and articles if you are more interested in this aspect. The core aspect of her research is strategies to change students' views of failure. Instead of having students view failure as something that is threatening to them or a consequence, she strives for students to view their mistakes as a chance to evaluate their weaknesses and using the experience as a chance to grow. I have included a video of her here discussing the differences between fixed and growth mindset so that you can understand it yourself and better educate your students on the difference as well.
The Silicon Valley founders are not afraid to fail. That is a key characteristic of the growth mindset. In fact, they say that when they fail, they're learning to succeed. They're gaining the experience that they need for their ultimate success. In a fixed mindset, failure means you're not a genius. Failure means there's something wrong with you. It's humiliating. It's to be swept aside as soon as possible. That attitude really curtails your success in the long run. How can people change from a fixed to a growth mindset? In my book, incidentally called Mindset, I have a chapter on how people can take those first steps toward change, but I also have a chart that juxtaposes the different characteristics of the two mindsets. And I suggest that people Xerox the chart, blow it up, and paste it on their mirror, because in the fixed mindset, It's about looking smart, always documenting that you've got the goods. But in the growth mindset, it's about capitalizing on what you have, growing it, and learning. Mistakes mean, in the fixed mindset, you don't have it, and you've got to cover them up. But mistakes in a growth mindset, they're just vehicles for learning. Effort in a fixed mindset means, well, you must not be a genius if you really have to sweat. But in the growth mindset, it is the way to develop your abilities and reach success. In a fixed mindset, other people's successes are undermining. But in a growth mindset, they're inspiring and they're people you can learn from. So step by step by step, people need to keep these in front of them and catch themselves when they're falling into that limiting fixed mindset. Some people have a fixed mindset. They think their qualities, their intelligence, are carved in stone. You have a certain amount and that's that. And these people worry about how much they have. They need to be right, they need to be brilliant, and they're always on that groove. Other people have what I call a growth mindset. They believe their basic qualities can be cultivated, developed throughout their lives, and they're in it for the growth, the learning, the adventure, not just to look smart. We often study in our research people making a transition, whether it's students making a transition to middle school or college, whether it's older people making a transition, because these are key points in people's lives when their mindsets really matter. If you have a fixed mindset, you're entering these transitions thinking, am I going to succeed or fail? Am I a winner or a loser? And you have to prove that you're a winner. But if you enter these transitions with a growth mindset, you think, here are some great opportunities. I may be anxious, I may be nervous, but I'm going to give it my all and learn lots of new things. Because often people are really good at something. They confront a new topic or a new challenge. They don't do well at first. And suddenly they think, I'm not good at it after all. They either escape from that arena, or they try to cover up their failures, or they just perform in order to look good and not look bad. But within a fixed mindset, that whole orientation toward learning can go out the window. How do you break a fixed mindset? Well, one thing is to recognize that many of us grew up with a fixed mindset. That was the wisdom of the day. Many educators thought IQ was fixed. Brain scientists thought the brain, that was just something we were given, and some people had better brains and some people had worse brains. But the new neuroscience is showing us something completely different, that basic things like intelligence can be taught, not just in kids but in adults, and that the brain has tremendous plasticity throughout our lifespan. So the growth mindset is receiving more and more confirmation from brain science. That's how I would start telling people about a growth mindset. The other thing is to teach them the various components of the growth mindset. In a growth mindset, not only do you believe that your abilities can be cultivated, but you welcome the effort. In a fixed mindset, the belief is if you have ability, you shouldn't need effort. That genius takes you automatically to success. And here, research is playing a big role too. The newest research is showing that great successes are people, yeah, they had talent, but they worked harder than anyone else. They didn't coast on their talent. They addressed their weaknesses. They learned from their failures.
Emotional excitabilities are the behaviors that gifted students exhibit that set them apart from other students. There are 5 categories of them: psychomotor, sensual, intellectual, imaginational, and emotional, and they were first developed by Dabrowski. The first category is psychomotor. These behaviors typically mean that the child is restless, curious, and has lots of energy. These students might be mistaken as ADD if not examined closely. As Sis states, psychomotor OEs are often compulsive talkers and chatter away in the classroom. Psychomotor OEs love games and fast sports, like soccer and baseball, and they can be impulsive with their marked enthusiasm. Foot twirling, fidgeting, and drumming on the desk are other manifestations of psychomotor OE, and these students can be mistaken as hyperactive or classified as having attention deficit disorder. It is important not to dismiss these students as behavior problems because their behavior could actually be a signal for an ability instead of just your typical class clown. The sensual overexcitability is often exhibited when students take pleasure in using their senses to explore things. They appreciate things that are beautiful and are fascinated with writing style. They may be sensitive to certain fabrics or foods because of their texture. An example of this behavior would be if a student comments in an English class how they feel like they can actually see or hear what the story is talking about, or if they discuss how they can truly identify with the author's voice because of how it is written. The intellectual overexcitability is shown when students have a talent for questioning and critical thinking. Students with this behavior often question authority not out of disrespect, but out of genuine curiosity about the material that is being discussed. Students with this trait are deep thinkers and can often take material to a higher level for discussion. Dorothy Sis states that these individuals are very introspective and as a result can ponder and analyze on a different level than their peers. Imaginational overexcitability is shown when students use a lot of imagery and metaphors to explain their thought process. They often mix fiction and truth because of how their brains interpret information. These students are often the ones to bring up what-if questions during discussions because they are always taking information and spinning it to a different direction or possibility. They are able to analyze situations and discuss different endings to scenarios because of their ability to imagine different events. The emotional overexcitability is demonstrated when students have intense feelings and often express empathy for others. This can mean that if a student gets in trouble, that they might also feel sad or angry. Personally, in my classroom, when watching a movie titled The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, a few of the students cried at the end because they feel empathy for the 2 main characters. These students relate well to others and take on others' issues as their own. Because gifted students have different needs, there are specific issues that teachers need to be cautious of. The first one is socialization. Being smart in school is not exactly the most popular thing in today's day and age. Students may be bullied by their peers for showing their talent in class and as a result might feel alienated from their group of peers. This is why it is important for teachers to be aware of their classroom environments and ensure that gifted students are not being singled out for demonstrating their talent. The most common form of this can be students making jokes and the gifted student not finding them funny. The best way to remedy this is to provide experiences for these students to explore themselves with like-minded individuals. A mentor program is an excellent method to offer these experiences. Leaders from the community can pour into these students and offer advice and encourage their passions. Pachowski claims that if the socialization issue is not handled, then students will continue to be criticized and teased for things that they can't help and begin to think that there is something wrong with them. This can lead to students disguising their intensity and normalizing themselves, leading to the next issue, which is underachievement. McNabb claims that when gifted students begin to experience boredom in school, they begin to misbehave, leading them to have negative interactions with their teachers, which reinforces to the child that their needs are unreasonable and that they don't deserve attention, leading them not to showcase their ability. Boredom and teasing from their peers are both stimuli that can ignite the underachievement downslide. Neihart suggests some tips to teachers to prevent this from happening, which includes setting high and clear expectations and encouraging the child to have a high sense of self and aspirations. Now that the myths have been diffused, you know the traits of gifted behavior, and you know the issues to watch out for, now you need strategies to use in your classroom. Gifted students benefit the most whenever they have the chance to take ownership of their learning with like-minded students. As a result, group discussions, group investigations, and problem-solving activities are great strategies. These types of activities allow students to dive into content at their own pace and explore the aspects that intrigue them the most because the activity gives them the freedom to do so. Gifted students perform best when they are not restricted by the teacher or other classmates holding them back. Differentiation is great for individualizing instruction if a student is misplaced within a class, meaning they are in a basic level when they should be advanced. This does not necessarily mean giving them extra work, but increasing the challenge level of the assignment so that the student's needs are being met. This may mean teaching the child the next lesson or asking them to go deeper with their critical thinking for the assignment. Gifted education is not an easy feat. It requires teachers to know facts from fiction when it comes to strategies and practices, be aware of the identifiers, know the social and emotional issues and how to help, and adapt new strategies to fit their needs. However, gifted education is also one of the most rewarding aspects of being a teacher as well. Hopefully through this presentation you feel more comfortable meeting the needs of the gifted students that you will have in your classrooms in the future. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any further questions.